Alright, there we go. Forge gang! I'm still a hard man! Let's go! So I can't sleep for nothing, so I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna get up and just kind of talk a bit. I'm gonna turn that off right fast. Okay. So I think a lot of people are confused about my position, about what I think or what I personally identify with, and I think it's confused a lot of people. So, I went ahead and I wrote down and took some notes that I'm going to use later. It's not much. So, I guess I'm just going to break it down bit by bit, which I can't do in one stream. I have to go over each of it categorically and just break it down bit by bit. And maybe that will help. Maybe it will cause further confusion. But anyways, I can't sleep. I tried to sleep. I just wasn't able to. So I'm up basically. Yeah, let's just go ahead and break it down. So I was thinking about starting with atheism. There are a lot of paleontologists and prehistorians that say that atheism was the first human belief system, and I just couldn't really find a lot of compelling evidence for that. And even if that was the case, if atheism was the belief of prehistoric people, and if newborn babies are basically just atheists as they say that they are, um, it isn't the same kind of atheism that Charles Darwin or the French philosophers or some of the classical Greek Platonists would have had. It just isn't the same thing. So atheism, in its at least in its modern contemporary form, is a product of Freud and a product of Charles Darwin and a product of modern philosophers. And the prerequisites or the antecedents of it only go back to classical Greece and to the Renaissance and to 18th century French and Scottish and American philosophers and English philosophers, and then some 19th century naturalists. And it's not really something that is taken from primitive societies. So even if those prehistoric, primitive, early human societies were quote unquote atheistic, agnostic, they still had a very basic spiritual belief system. So they did have a spiritual belief system, whether it was totemism or animism or whatever. It is not like modern atheism or agnosticism. If you want to disagree with me on that, then that's fine, but this is what I think. I don't think that primitive, prehistoric, illiterate tribes or Stone Age tribes were necessarily atheist or agnostic. And even if you want to say that they were, it was very different from what 19th century naturalists believed or 19th century atheists believed. 19th century atheists believed in science and material and the material world and the atomistic world and the material phenomena that they observed. Primitive agnostics would have believed in spirits and spiritual essences and supernatural stuff. They believed in a definable spirit world, and they believed in ancestor worship and nature worship. Very different stuff. So I'm not going to go on and tackle what my position is on atheism yet. So I'm going to start with animism. Animism is not necessarily a religion as such. It is not like polytheism. In fact, it's not polytheism. There is this rather incredibly stupid reaction from Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and even other people too that are not connected to Abrahamic religions. And they just dilapidate and lop in all of these polytheistic religions together and say that they are the same. That pre-Christian religions or pre-Islamic religions, oh, they're all the same. They're not. Especially when it comes to animism, or like the beliefs, the collected beliefs of these very prehistoric Stone Age peoples. Okay, I am trying my best to not be racist. I have to be careful what I say on here because this is not racism. Okay, I'm talking about religion. I'm not talking about race. But anyways, first of all, I'm not going to be talking about ancient agnosticism or primitive agnosticism. There are some paleontologists that say that there is a primitive ancient agnosticism. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about polytheism. I am only talking about like collected oral traditions of the Inuit, some Native Americans, indigenous African tribes, and maybe Central Asian tribes and Pacific Islanders. So, and also any religion of people in prehistory, people that the beliefs that people had either before they started farming or before the rise of organized states and written language. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, and then I'm going to explain why I am not an animist. I am going to make it firmly explainable and make it firmly clear why I'm not an animist. And then you'll understand my position, at least on that. And believe me, I've got a lot of things to say about Odinism and Christianity and Islam. There is this extremely, I don't know, just very low-tier, low-effort troll. I'm not going to mention his name, but he keeps saying that I'm going to convert to Islam. Well, I have a lot of criticism of Islam too, okay? I mainly just go after Christianity because of personal issues with my life and my upbringing and family relations, and how it has damaged my life. So, anyways, I'm going to start with animism first. So, animism was first termed by British anthropologist Sir Edward Taylor, 1871. It stems from Latin, the Latin word anima, which means breath, spirit, and life. Animists apparently believe that there is a soul, or there is like a supreme being, a supreme spirit, a great spirit or a great entity in plants, animals, rocks, weather, and mountains, and all these things have souls. Just like humans do. Humans, animals, plants, rocks, mountains, lakes, rivers have souls. The animists engage in ancestor worship. The Pacific Northwestern tribes have like these things. They're called totem poles. They're not the only ones that do it, but they stack up their ancestors and the animal spirit that is related to their animal, the animal spirit that's related to their ancestor, and they will carve out of wood an image of their ancestor in the guise of this animal avatar, and they'll stack it up on top of each other. And this is kind of a known tradition with the Northwest Pacific Native Americans. The Northwest Pacific Native Americans. That's Oregon, Washington, Alberta, places like that on the Pacific coast of North America, and maybe Alaska too, I'm not for sure. They believe in ancestor worship. They worship and deify their ancestors. They believe that loved ones, ancestors, close relatives, when they die, can, from the spirit world, influence the daily lives of the tribe. They believe that the world has agency and free will to it. The earth itself is alive. Gaia is alive, and there's spirits everywhere. It's kind of like Shintoism. So the world has agency and free will, including all life and dead things, not just humans. Animists believe that trees, lakes, mountains, and animals have social and parasocial relationships. They do not think that humans have special title apart from other living things or things that have this spirit, this kami spirit or whatnot. So the parts of the world today that have animists or animist, spiritists, animists, the most today are going to be found in sub-Sahara Africa, Aboriginal Australians, Pacific Islanders, and Native Americans. So basically, parts of the world where tribal identities are still the strongest. Clan ties and tribal ties and identities are still strongest. And basically, all prehistoric people, all prehistoric tribes are animists. So again, that is just a bit of an outline. Edward Taylor, a British anthropologist, was the one who coined this term animism, which I chose to use, and is Latin anima, which means breath of life, breath, life, and spirit. So that's animism. So basically, it is a collection of folklore, a collection of spiritual or like some kind of bizarre totemistic belief system of ancestor worship, tribal interrelationship and interconnectivity, and just engaging in interaction with the spirits. They will do dances. They will do like special types of dances and special types of they'll take like substances and they'll dance around a fire. The shaman will wear like the skins of animals or the skins and furs of certain animals. They'll dance around the fire and beat stuff to call up the spirits. It's called spirit dancing or whatever. They'll call up the spirits and they then begin to meditate and they interact with the spirits. Different tribes across the world, different Native American tribes, different Inuit peoples, and different sub-Saharan tribes and Aboriginal Australians and Pacific Islanders all have very different beliefs. It varies from tribe to tribe, region to region. So, as you probably might have guessed, this terminology, animism, is very vague, and it's kind of an umbrella term. It's an umbrella term that covers a very broad layer of many different tribal groups and stuff, and spiritual traditions, but it's basically the fundamental background of human beliefs. There's something about the human mind, the human brain, that is basically wired into this supernatural mindset. There's been a lot of scientific studies that have been done. Unfortunately, I can't cite right now at this moment some scientific studies, but there's been a lot of studies done, and basically the human brain is just wired into religion. It's just there's something about the human brain that is intrinsically wired into like this mindset of this otherness, this non-perceivable, non-viewable, imperceptible, otherworldly kind of thing that can be equated with material, with spiritualism, with religion, and with superstition and supernatural, and paranormal stuff. It's very extremely kind of hard to describe, but it's all interconnected and it's a very complicated mishmash. But that's how the human brain works. Humans just have this collective hardwired mindset to just think of and just come up with and perceive an otherworldly thing, a spirit otherworldliness, and then people write it down. People succumb and write down, and they have to try to explain and stuff. And this is actually, in a way, where science and religion and experimentation all come from. They all come from the same roots, which is really interesting. You have a lot of atheists, and they say that science and religion are not related. They come from the same thing, okay? The mindset that humans have to make tools and to use science to describe physical paranormia, phenomena, and paraphernalia, and then the way that humans use religion to explain the spiritual aspects are all the same thing. It's all coming from the same source, whether it's metaphysics, whether it's supernatural or superstitions. Humans have just an innate capacity within them to just think deeper than the actual meaning of what is actually there. For some reason, at some point in the distant past, long before the rise of civilization, long before any religions took root, humans just interacted and they just saw the spirit and the natural world interact in their mind, and they came up with ideas and answers. Animism is supposed to be like one of the earliest, if not really the earliest way that humans have tried to describe or have tried to raise up a postulation about this, about religion and stuff. And I think that I have confused a lot of people about what my personal beliefs are. So I'm going to break it down to you. I'm going to break down why it is that ImperatorOfForge is not an animist. That is the title of this video. I am not an animist because, for one thing, I live in a organized, high-tech civilization. It's not really going to be that forthcoming to try to look at the world or to try to look at living things and think that all things have this great spirit, this kind of great spirit mindset over the world and animals and stuff. I don't see that. I happen to disagree with that. I don't think that there are innate spirits in rocks or in trees or mountains or lakes or rivers or even really in plants and animals. I don't really think that animals and plants would have the same type of sentience as humans do. That isn't to say that they don't have any kind of sentience. Obviously they do, because they're alive and they think they can interact with their environment and they can move until they die. But it's not the same thing as human intelligence. It is not innately the same thing, and I fail to see personally, as a person myself, how these things can intrinsically have some kind of a special connection to people. How a lake can have a kami or house a kami or a god or a soul, and how it can interact and have agency in any way. I just don't see that. Even some of the Celtic and Germanic peoples, the Celts and the Germanic and Slavs were not animists. They were polytheists. They were not animists, and they were not the same thing as the Inuit people when Christianity arrived. But they did claim to see aspects or manifestations of gods in trees and stuff. And like the Christian monks would tear down the trees and stuff, which was really a good thing ultimately. But the Greeks and Romans did not believe that gods manifested in immaterial objects. And probably really neither did the Celts or the Germanics either, but the Christians would claim that they did. They would say it was idol worship or whatnot. But again, I'm not talking about that, okay? That will be later. We're only talking about animism. I want to stay on animism. So I'm not an animist, or when I say animist, I'm talking about what Sir Edward Tyler would have used. This is a very loose and very confounding term, I do understand, because what exactly is it? It doesn't really, it could be the Sami, it could be the Native Americans, it could be the Inuit that I'm talking about. I am just talking about the common religion of like the Stone Age people at the caves of Luscous in France, when they took their art and they drew animals or they painted animals on the cave walls. Or like I'm talking about some Mesoamericans are not animist. Mesoamericans had a pantheology of gods. So I'm not talking about every Native American. I'm only talking about like Amazonian tribes and like Native Americans in the United States and Canada, or like Plains Indian tribes and Inuit and Australian Aborigines and like some sub-Saharan African tribes. Okay, not every sub-Saharan African or every Native American is an animist. Okay, they have a more sophisticated religious spirit faith tradition than that. I'm just talking about these people, and I'm not a racist. Okay, I'm not being racist to these people. I just want to give a disclaimer about that. I'm not talking about their I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the religion, the faith, the spirit, faith tradition, or the animistic traditions. Okay, and even with Europeans. Okay, so Europeans, you go back 20,000 years to the Ice Age. Okay, Europeans were doing the same thing. So there, it's not racist. I'm criticizing the prehistoric Stone Age Europeans, okay? So before you click the flag button, before you decide to click the report button, you can consider that I'm also being critical of Europeans in the Ice Age with their animistic practices as well, okay? I just want to give that as a disclaimer. So you don't have to necessarily attack me because of that. So I'm not an animist. I don't believe that there are spirits or kami or gods in rocks or lakes or rivers or mountains or trees and stuff. I just don't believe that, okay? I'm never going to believe that. And thankfully, I'm pretty sure that 100% of the people that are watching me or were watching me during this are not going to have an issue with me criticizing this. Animism itself is not a religion. Like, Shinto is really not animism. Japanese Shinto is actually quite something else. But yeah, animism is just, it's not even really a religion. It's just a very vague terminology that some British anthropologist in the 19th century came up with to describe the collected folk tales, collected folk traditions, and rituals and practices of primitive peoples or primitive societies that I guess he or other British missionaries, British explorers encountered when they were exploring these parts of the world. So it's a outdated. I understand it is a very outdated, very racist terminology. I get that. Okay, but it's not a very good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. So if you are a animist out there, I'm very critical of your beliefs. I think that your collected folk beliefs are kind of irrational. I think that it is to be disagreed upon vehemently, and I just don't see why I should be an animist. I don't see why I should think that there is a great spirit or some kind of Mother Earth or Father Sky spirit, or like how totem poles or rocks or certain types of carvings can hold an ancestor spirit, or how the dead spirits or the ancestors can interact, or how animal spirits can interact and stuff. Another good name would be shamanism, but shamanism, there's many different types of shamanistic practices. I would consider shamanism to be a little bit more sophisticated than animism, but anyways, yeah. Why would I want to be an animist? I don't see a logical conclusion to being an animist. I absolutely disagree with this idea that lakes can have sentience. Lakes aren't even alive. How can they have a spirit if they don't even have life? How can they have sentience if there's any life to them? It is a very foolish thing to actually think that you can take like some kind of special drug, alcoholic or whatever, and put on animal clothes and dance around a fire and think that you're going to call forth the spirits of your ancestors. You're not doing anything besides looking stupid. I don't care if it's offensive to you. I don't give a flying fuck. It is very stupid and it is very dumb to believe in this kind of stuff. It is a worthless belief system. It is a completely meaningless and very foolish thing. You don't even have a set of beliefs. Okay, you animists out there, you don't even have a set of beliefs written down. You know, oh, you just want to talk about the Great Spirit. Okay, sure, buddy, whatever. And then I know there's a lot of New Age people, New Age gurus, and people from like the New Age trend, David Icke, and some other New Age guru types, and they've tapped into this animistic and shamanistic stuff too, and have talked about it. And then there's a lot of books that have been written about it too over the years. And of course a lot of former Jews and Christians and Muslims and other polytheists and Buddhists and stuff and atheists have also joined onto the bandwagon of kind of New Age shamanism, New Age practices as well. A lot of people coming from many different backgrounds and many different like concepts and ideas. Shamanism and animism is a extremely vague and very loose topology. It's very hard to really put down and grasp what exactly it is, because it is basically one of the longest existing human spiritual practices or human belief systems ever. Again, it is a collected system of many different types of beliefs and tribal ideas and stuff. And it is kind of hard to wrap around what exactly it is, but I think it's a very foolish thing. I don't think you should be an animist. I don't see any purpose or reason why I should be an animist. I think if you are an animist or a shamanist practitioner, I think you're very stupid. I don't think that you have a good, purposeful, logical argument, and I think that your position is on grains of sand. I think that you're probably just wasting your time. You're not doing anything with it. You're not calling any ancestor spirits. You're not engaging or interacting with the natural world or with the spirit world. You're just taking a bunch of like medicinal drugs and just passing yourself out and going through a cycle or something. It's just really weird. So there you go. And Juice and Rick Perry are arguing in the chat about Catholicism or Christianity. I think they're talking about the Vatican I Council, and I'm talking about animism. So I just wanted to I just want to go bit by bit, kind of break down what I believe and don't believe. I think people are very confused about it. So I needed to do this. Again, I don't really see a prehistoric agnosticism. There are these primitivo communists and these kind of Marxist people. People like what's his name? Anyways, there's these Marxists and other people too, cultural anthropologists, and they say that there is an ancient agnosticism that pre-existed all religions, including ancient pagan religions and stuff. I did research and I just wasn't able to really see that. I don't see how a primitive tribe that believes in a Mother Earth goddess or in a fertility goddess in the Neolithic are going to be agnostic, okay? How can you be atheist and agnostic and make these fertility clay idols or like these kind of Mother Earth fertility statues or statuettes in like the Neolithic age? Or just like, I just don't see, I mean, why would an agnostic or an atheist dance in animal skins and talk to a shaman or go to a shrink or engage in voodoo and stuff? So I'll get more into voodoo and I'll get more into some African traditions and I'll explain why I'm not an African tribal religious person, obviously. And I'll get into that later. So this was my breakdown. I defined what animism was. I explained why I'm not an animist, and I explained why you shouldn't be an animist. Thank you for watching. I'll go ahead and look at some of the chat. Rick Perry says, Forge gang, just woken up. I'm on my second coffee. Daniel says, okay. Jew says animism is dumb and is a brown religion. Rick Perry says that animists were proto-furries. Even the Batman succumbed to his furry predilections. Batman got his identity not because of that, okay? That's just, that Batman and the origins of Bruce Wayne becoming Batman has nothing to do with furries. Let's see here. Let's see here. Hey, good morning, Krail. How are you doing? Krail says, good morning. Let's see here. Happened to the best of us. Animism is a proto-idealism. Well, I think it's an extremely primitive and just bare bones spiritual religion or spiritual belief system. It's like the oldest religion in the world, but in reality, it's just a vague terminology. Knowledge of a transcendent creator God can be reached by reason alone. I'm not too sure about that. I think you also need to have faith in God, Juice. You need to have a degree of faith as well. It's just that with animism, there is no faith to be had because there's no actual spiritual thing going on within animism overall. Let's see here. My epistemology, the account of revealed scripture, teaches me that God physically dialogued with man in prehistory. Any divergence from these accounts are invariably obfuscated folk memories of this reason and revelation. Yeah, I'm not too sure of that, Rick Perry. Let's see here. Rick Perry says that, which is why knowledge of the Trinity requires revelation. But simply knowing that God is transcendent can be reached by reason alone, said Vatican I. Yeah, I would disagree with that, Juice. I think you need more than just reason to reach or to understand God. Any God besides the Trinity can be a God, small g. Sure, but that's not. Oh, man. Are you talking about an Elohim? Are you talking about like an Elohim? That's not the same as arriving at the knowledge of the God of the Most High, which necessarily requires revelation. Jew says, wrong, Rick. It is a dogma of First Vatican Council 1869 to 70, taught that God's existence can be proven by reason alone. The Council also taught that faith and reason are not opposed to each other. If anyone says that the one true God, our Creator and Lord, cannot be known with certainty from the things that have been made by the natural light of human reason, let him be anathema. Vatican I, Aquinas, Reason, Revelation. There is no such thing as epistemistic certitude. And quoting dogmas isn't an argument. You're just making bare assertions. Quoting councils isn't an argument. You're nuts. You can't deny a dogma and remain in communion with the church, sir. You're a callow youth with much to learn. If your faith is based on authority alone, at some point, that tinnitus fascismal of the faith will dissipate. Strawman argument, Juice. Juice is trying to argue with me, lol. Yes, faith, a supernatural gift from God. Early morning dunking on animism, TWU. You need faith to know the Trinity, but knowledge of a transcendent God can be reached by reason alone. That is a dogma that no Catholic may deny, lest they be anathema. I don't think that Catholics need to follow hook, line, and sinker directly on every single dogma, per se. You just have to agree and generally not try to overthrow the dogma. But anyways, let's see here. Fallacy of false equivalence. A God, he's talking about an Elohim. A God and the God are not the same thing. It's a fallacy. There were monotheists before Christ who didn't know the nature of the Trinity. I don't even necessarily think that the first generation of Christians really understood what the Trinity was. Tertullian is a good example. He just had the most basic concept of the Godhead Trinity and the hypostatic union between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And it wasn't even really the same thing that was later crystallized and ossified at Nicaea and Constantinople in regards to the creed. The scriptures clearly teach the Trinity from Genesis onwards. Well, that's a Christophany, and the Old Testament is pre-fulfillment revelation, and the full fulfillment and the full revealing of the mysteries of that pre-fulfillment scripture were not brought to full fruition until the new covenant was done. So I wanted to in this stream, I wanted to talk about animism. The chat went off into something completely different, talking about the Bible and the church and stuff. I'm not even talking about the church or about Christianity. I'm just talking about animism. Why I, ImperatorOfForge, Forge Warhammer, why I'm not an animist and why I think that animists are dumb. And I think they're wasting their time and their efforts. So that's all I did. I gave my points. So now that I'm done, hopefully I gave my points so I don't have to go back and do another stream on animism and explain again the same thing. I wanted to just give my points. I don't think that there's spirits in lakes, rivers, and stone. I don't think that totem poles can allow you to commune with the ancestors. And I don't think that dancing around has a shaman. I don't think that dancing dressed up as a shaman can help you interact with the spirit world. Again, there's nothing written down about animism because the people in the tribes, it's just a collection of tribal folk beliefs, and they're not, even the folk traditions within the same tribe are not even mutually related or intermutable with each other. They're completely just really like completely different, unrelated things in a way. It's kind of complicated. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Juice says that, yeah, I'm sorry for taking it off. I was saying that animism is stupid because I can know God by reason alone. Well, you need revelation too. You need to have divine revelation and divine interaction with humans by the Godhead to reveal the existence of God. And also, man was created by God, anyways, ultimately. Supposedly, according to the Bible tradition. If you don't want to be literal about it, then we'll just talk about that's what the Bible and what the church has said. So, anyways, I am Imperator of Forge. I am not an animist. I don't think you should be an animist, and I'm done. Peace out.